So they help in taking care of the embryo till the embryo is finally transferred back into the womb of the patient. So that is what an embryologist basically do.
How about you introduce yourself?
Okay, so my name is Upashana Dhakal. I have been working as an embryologist here in Gangtok in a clinic called Noble Stride Fertility and Diagnostic Center. I have been into this for 3 years now, and till now it's been such a learning experience, and I'm hoping to learn more and help the patients further in future.
I'm sure. What does an embryologist do?
Okay, so basically, when a patient chooses to go to an to an IVF center, the patient meets up with a clinician. So the clinician usually helps them get pregnant. They make their treatment, chart, and then they help you with the stimulation, and then there is the egg retrieval process, and finally, then there is embryo transfer.
What does an embryologist do?
Okay. During these processes, embryologists play a crucial role when it comes to handling the gametes. That is the male sperm and the female egg. So they assist in vitro fertilization, and then they also help in taking care of the embryo after the egg has been fertilized and embryo is formed. Okay. During these processes, so they help in taking care of the embryo till the embryo is finally transferred back into the womb of the patient. So that is what an embryologist basically do.
So all science and the lab thing, right?
Yeah, it's basically associated with the lab. The moment the egg is retrieved from the patient, the embryologist takes care of the egg and the male sperm, and then fertilize it, and then grow them into the embryo. They do the screening, they see if they are growing properly or not, and then finally it is transferred back to the patient.
All right. So Gangtok is one of the states in the Northeast, and Northeast, I believe, have a similar background in many ways. Do you have patients who require IVF or your service?
Yes, we have patients here who require IVF. Well, I think it's more to do with the lifestyle that we have here. Actually, people usually, choose to get married in their late 20s or in their 30s. So what happens is usually fertility rate declines after 30, both in male as in female. So because of that, Gangtok let's not say Gangtok, as in like Sikkim as a whole, do have a infertility problem.
All right. So Gangtok is one of the states in the Northeast. And Northeast, your role is it a client-facing role, or do you only face the client when you have to go and retrieve the egg?
Usually we work behind the scenes. We don't have to face the patient. If it comes to explaining the eggs, we might give a phone call to the patient and send them pictures of how their embryos are growing. But basically, we do not have that much of interaction with the patients. Ours is like behind the scene rules.
Behind the scene, but the most crucial rule, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
So here's a question. I was reading some articles, and there's something called pre-implantation genetic testing, PGTA testing.
Okay.
Is this legal in India?
PGT testing, yes, it is legal in India, and there are centers where PGT testing is done here in India.
Oh, the only reason I'm asking is because it's the question that comes about ethics and the choices and selective parenting, right? Beyond the genetic testing, if genetic testing is also done, and we in India prefer male child, right? Is that going to be an issue? I know that genetic testing is just genetics testing, but is that an issue?
Okay, so yeah, sex determination is not allowed, but then PGT is done as in where we can screen if that particular embryo has aneuploidy or not, or if the parents are suffering from some genetic disorders. then maybe like the embryo can be given for PGT screening. When it comes to sex determination, it is prohibited in India. We cannot determine the sex of the embryo, as it is a crime to determine sex here under the PCPNDT Act.
Yeah. Okay. So when the PGT test is done, right? So if there are some genetic abnormalities, you discard that embryo and then you start with a new one, or how does it happen?
Okay, so usually we do not recommend patients to, go for implantation because it may end up into miscarriage. So we do not recommend patients, if aneuploidy is there, then it's out of question. Like implantation is out of question. So we do not encourage patients for the same. And this is for that very reason PGT is done. Correct. In order to avoid all those problems of abortion and everything.
So here's a question, maybe it's not related to your line of work, but what happens if an embryo implants itself in the womb lining?
What happens to the embryo if it
implants itself in the womb lining?
Okay, so it slowly starts developing, like it forms the tophectoderm, it forms the placenta, and then the inner cell mass, it grows into various body parts. That is what happens when it attaches to the womb lining. That is what happens. Sorry?
That's normal?
Yes, it's normal. You mean when an embryo attaches, a blastocyst attaches to the uterine wall? No, it's only after an embryo has developed and formed a blastocyst, it gets attached to the uterine wall. Otherwise, there's no implantation of the uterine wall. Implantation of the embryo. So I think you are talking about embryo hatching. Is it that what you want to ask?
That. Yeah, something like that.
So what happens naturally, our embryo, it is protected by zona pellucida. Okay, so during cell division, the initial stage of cell division of the embryo, the cell does not grow. The embryo, the size does not grow, but then there is rapid cell division taking place inside the
embryo.
Yeah, so that very same time, the embryo from the ampulla of the fallopian tube is traveling, and then it will finally reach the uterine cavity during the 5th or 6th day. Okay, so during the 5th or 6th day, the embryo has turned into a blastocyst. Okay, and slowly this blastocyst now starts increasing in size. So when it starts increasing in size, the zona pellucida, it breaks open. The embryo pushes itself to break the zona pellucida, and then hence the embryo comes out of the zona pellucida, and then it goes and then it attaches to the uterine wall. That is what happens.
It's beautiful.
And then invasion takes place.
Yes.
Okay.
So I want to come back to the PGT testing.
Okay.
If a client, right? If a client says yes to genetic testing, PGT testing, how long does it take and what is the process?
Okay. So it may take around 4 weeks to 6 weeks for the results to come in. When a patient opts for PGT testing. So what is done is TE biopsy, that is the tophectoderm, that is the outer cell mass in the blastocyst. It is with the help of the laser, few cells from the tophectoderm is taken out. Okay, a biopsy is done, and then it is taken for the PGT testing. That is how it is done.
And in this process, during this process, does the embryo need to be frozen or allowed to grow as it is?
Okay, so usually it is like after the biopsy is done, the embryo is usually frozen.
Okay.
That is what is done, because only after the results are back, then only we'll opt for transferring the embryo. So it's frozen.
And is this successful all the time, or?
You mean
PG
the
testing.
implantation?
The PG testing.
PGT testing, okay. So PGT testing may not be successful all the time. Most of the time, almost 90% of the time, it is successful. But sometimes they may not be able to find what's wrong with the what's wrong or what's right with the biopsy sample. So sometimes they may not, find anything in that. So in those cases, re-biopsy is done.
Okay. Got it. So, ma'am, I see more and more women opting to freeze their eggs. What is the process of thawing the frozen egg? What happens when?
Okay, so usually when we talk about freezing the eggs, what is done is the eggs, the oocytes, they are dehydrated. Whatever water content they have in them, it is like, dehydrated completely, because if there is some water content in the oocytes, what happens is intracellular crystallization takes place.
Okay.
So that may damage the oocytes. So while thawing, what it is done is the oocyte is again rehydrated. So when freezing is done, there's the shrinkage of the oocyte. The oocyte size decreases. Okay, so after that, when thawing is done, we again put the water back inside the oocyte, and it increases in size. It comes to its original size. So there are a few steps involved in thawing of the oocytes. Firstly, it is taken out from the liquid nitrogen, okay, and it's given a temperature shock.
Oh.
Like there are a few steps. So it is directly taken out from the liquid nitrogen, and then it is kept in a TS solution, okay, where the TS solution is 37 degrees centigrade. So when it's the cryo straw where the oocytes were preserved, it is taken out and then it's placed on that particular solution. So there's a temperature difference, minus 190, and then there is 37. So the straw is directly placed in the warm TS solution. So that what happens is it receives a temperature shock, and then it releases the egg that is attached on the cryo deck. Okay, sorry, cryo lock. So after that, what happens is then it's placed in a dilution solution. So in dilution solution, it slowly rehydrates itself. The thawing media usually generally consists of sucrose. So what this sucrose does is it goes and attaches itself to the lipid layer of the oocyte. So when it attaches to the lipid layer of the oocyte, slowly it allows the water to get inside the cell, the oocyte, and then the oocyte, it starts expanding. It starts expanding and it starts getting back into its original size. So in dilution solution, it's usually kept for like 3 minutes, and then it's transferred to wash solution. So after the wash is done, for that particular amount of time, whatever the amount of time it is supposed to be kept, it is kept there, and finally then it is kept in the culture media and then incubated in the incubator, and finally it's transferred to the patient.
So what do you think of, can you refreeze thawed eggs? Is it possible?
It is possible to refreeze thawed eggs, but then it's very debatable. It has been very debatable because sometimes it may not give a good as good result as it's frozen for the first time.
Yes.
So but then there are cases we have to refreeze and rethaw the oocytes, but it's still not recommended.
And in what kind of cases is it refreeze and thawed?
Rethought, like in PGT screening.
Okay.
Sometimes when sometimes when PGT screening has to be done, and if someone has already someone is already using their frozen embryos, then they have to like refreeze it and again re-thaw it for the transfer. So
which, although absolutely mind-blowing, can also impact the quality of the oocytes.
yes, it can affect the quality of those sites, and usually the success rate is much lower than the freezing done for the first time.
Right.
So
Right.
this is quite debatable.
Yeah. Yes. So do you use a sperm washing machine to assist you sometimes in your work?
We use the centrifuge machine during the sperm washing technique. Centrifuge.
How does it help your work?
Well, it helps in the separation of the viable sperm from the ones that are not viable and which are dead, and it also helps separate the WBCs from the viable sperm. So it's very helpful.
Right. Well, so here's a question. What made you decide to become an embryologist? Did you make this decision when you were younger, or?
Okay, actually one of my friend, like, she was doing this course. So when I heard from her she was doing this course, I thought, like, okay, I should also do it because it's really interesting. And that is why I chose to do this course, and there has been no turning back since then.
So little over 3 years of working now.
Yeah, a little over 3 years.
It's been wonderful to catch up with you, and we will keep connecting again. Thank you for your time. And
thank you so much.
Yes, we wish you the very best from Subak Health Tech in whatever you do, both in your personal life and in your professional life.
Okay, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
It was indeed. May God bless you.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
God bless you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.